Good morning. If I was to ask you a question, and that question would be, what fruit are you showing your family and social media during this time of our corona pandemic? What would your answer be? Why would I ask such a question? And I want to read to you out of John chapter 15, verses 8 and 9. This is my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Now remain in my love. Now, we see this apple here. Behind me, you see apple trees and beautiful blossoms. And we look at this and we start to kind of think about what is this guy talking about? And we start to examine this. Now, the reason I ask is we've had a lot of togetherness of late. A lot of people are at home with their families, parents with their kids, parents with grandparents, or whoever's living in the home, or maybe you're by yourself. Now you're frustrated and you're wondering when this is going to be over. And maybe you've even taken to a little bit of the social media and started to voice your concerns, or maybe a little bit beyond that. But as Christians, we are called to show our love in everything that we do. What does that look like? What does that fruit look like? 1 Corinthians chapter 13 says the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, long-suffering. And when we are looking at these things, we start to wonder, how do we do that in this time? And now I brought this apple this morning, and for some of us, biting into this apple, you would find refreshing goodness. Science for a long time, or maybe the old wives' tale was told to you that an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? And so we want to be healthy and we want to do this. But we are like this fruit. It's even got a little tag on it still, tells me it's a gala apple. And as we partake of this fruit, it's like the people around us, our family members, those on social media, or whoever we're in contact with now, they partake of this fruit. What will they taste when they see you? Maybe you're not quite like this apple. Maybe life has rendered you down a little bit. Maybe you're more like applesauce. And you've felt that pull. You've felt that mashing of life. I was at a friend's house this last year, and they were making fresh apple cider. And it was so delicious, fresh apple cider. But the process that you watched as they put these old apples into this press and they pressed it down is much like life, much like what is going on around us right now. We are feeling pressed on all sides. But if we will allow God to use it for His good, for His glory, as it says in John chapter 15, verse 8, people will see His love. And as we allow ourselves to be pressed out, people will start to taste that goodness that is around us. So people will start to taste something good that will come out of what seems to be tragedy, what seems to be hardship. And maybe you'll even be beautifully bottled like this. But we don't know what will happen. But we do know that as Christians, we are called to love as Jesus loved, as He first loved us, is what it says in verse 9. That no matter where we are in our walks, no matter what we are experiencing during this time, we are called for producing fruit. If you look behind me at the apple trees, these trees would no longer be here if they weren't producing fruit. They would not be a benefit to the orchardists. They would not be a benefit to society. Our fruit is what benefits others around us because of God's love. And this morning, as we gather together, as whether you're watching out there this morning, I'm not sure what you're doing. Maybe you're in your pajamas this morning having a cup of coffee. Maybe you've been up for several hours. Maybe you didn't sleep well. Maybe you're worried about family. God knows all that. And what He does is He says, keep loving me as I love you. I think about one very famous person in the Bible, King David, that God called him the apple of His eye. And I tell you what, I'd love to be called the apple of God's eye. And we know that David, man, boy, did he mess up a few times, and his life was rough. From the time he was probably a late teen, he was chased by Saul. He was actively seeked out to be killed. He lost people closest to him. He lived in caves and in the deserts. And yet, when he talks about God, when he talks about his life in the book of Psalms, he brings us a fresh bite. He brings us good fruit. I couldn't find an old gnarly apple. I really didn't want to. But when people partake of us, what do they partake of? Do they partake of something that is good? Something that is edifying and encouraging and loving? Or do they partake of something that they walk away with a bad taste in their mouth? Today, wherever you are, whatever your situation, I would just encourage you to allow God's love to flow through you. To approach the throne room of God this morning, much like David did through many of the Psalms. You see him lamenting, and in the next Psalm you see him rejoicing. It's because he knew the key to living a fruitful life was being close to the master orchardist, to the master's hand. He knew that being close to the creator of all would allow him to live life and produce fruit. At times he did produce bad fruit, just like we do. But we remember him more for the good fruit that he produced, for the blessings of the life he shared. And so today you can be that same person. Most importantly for your family, because that's who you're around right now. Whether you want to be or not, whether or not you need some space today, this is the fruit that they see, God's fruit, God's love. Use this time to build relationship, to enjoy what God has given you. Use this quiet time to push in, to be with your Creator, your God, your Jehovah Jireh, your God, your provider. And allow your fruit to be a blessing to others in everything that you do. The world is watching. The world is looking for answers. And we've seen non-Christians and Christians alike start to publish encouraging, beautiful stories all across our nation, all across our world. Let us continue that. We don't know what today holds or tomorrow holds. And yeah, we're frustrated. But we do have control of how we act, of how us and what people see. So no matter where you are again in your walk, whether you've been pressed out, allow yourselves to be refreshing and encouraging to the people around you. Allow your life to glorify God. Be patient, be long-suffering. Be what God has called as love, because he first loved you. Go with God this beautiful day. I'll talk to you later this week. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about peeling back the layers. And as we start to explore that, what that looks like, especially during this time, I think you'll find it a little bit interesting. So I'll see you later this week. God bless.